Okay, Rob Weller back with you here at Hollywood Headliners. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. And we are here. Ali Velshi is going to buzz in just a half a second with us. Ali is with Al Jazeera America. Al Jazeera, by the way, just came on August 20th. Ali has been with CNN for years and years and years, a terrific host for them. He was a big get. And Ali was our guest about 4 or 5 months ago, Andy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that.
Early.
Yeah, we had him the day he said that he had to that he was taking the Al Jazeera job. So Ali's going to be with us, and also coming up in just a little bit, Elise Daguignare. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I am.
We'll find out in 10
Well,
minutes.
we sure will. You know who she's married to?
The boss.
Bertrand von Munster.
Munster.
And you know what those guys do?
Cheese. No. Okay.
No.
Wow, that was a setup.
Well, can you believe that? The Amazing Race is going into its 23rd season. Now, it came on in 2001. If it's going into its 23rd season, that would mean it is the year 2024.
That's why I failed math. I think there's 13 seasons a year.
What?
No.
Well, they must do.
No, they do two.
They do 2 seasons
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
And it's going into, all right.
Right.
Okay, joining us now via Skype is the one, the only from Al Jazeera America, Ali Velshi. Ali, how are you?
Hey, Rob, good to talk to you, my friend.
Boy, Ali, it sounds like you're in the next room. It's
I
unbelievable.
know, you sound the same to me. This is a little freaky.
Oh, that's good audio.
You are calling to us from New York, and I want to thank you for staying up a little later, although you New Yorkers, you never go to dinner till midnight anyway.
Don't
So
make me sound like such a loser. It's 10:15 at night. Come on.
come on, you get your bunny slippers
You know
on?
it's 3 hours past my bedtime.
Ali, we were just mentioning that Al Jazeera America, which was current television, and then was sold to Al Jazeera for the tidy little sum of $400 million. Was that cash and in small bills by any way?
I have never had the amount confirmed to me. I've heard that number. I've heard a slightly higher number. I'm fairly high ranking in the organization, but not so high ranking that anybody told me what they paid for current.
Yeah, I know. When it comes to numbers like that, sometimes execs are a little tight to the vest.
Yeah.
Why did they pay so much money for that?
Well, it's very hard to start a TV station and get full distribution in the United States. There was a time when you could do that, but right now there are, a number of very large cable companies, and there's AT&T and Verizon Fios and Dish and DirecTV, and then about 15% of the market is made up of small cable companies, small operators. That's
right.
About 15 million households. It's really a gargantuan task to build a station and then develop contracts with everybody. So if you can afford to, you sort of skip a lot of steps by buying an existing TV station if you are going to program something that's similar to what they were programming. So if it's news and information like Current was, that makes sense.
And now Al Jazeera America is in about 40 million homes. Is that right, Ali?
40 million is right. Yeah, we're still in negotiations with a few carriers. We might get ourselves to 50 in the next several months, and then hopefully to sort of 60 or 70. And 85, which is full distribution over the course of the next few years.
Yeah, it takes a while. I mean, people say, "Gee, there's 500 stations out there," but not all of them have complete distribution. ESPN, I think, has the biggest distribution of anybody,
Yes.
whatever that is. They're in like 200% of all the homes.
Yes,
Every home
that's
has
right.
ESPN in at least
Times
7
4
rooms.
stations, yeah.
But you kind of work your way up over a number of years as you get into more and more homes. Okay, let's talk about Al Jazeera America. You came on August 20th. How's it doing?
It's doing very well, actually. If you look at the numbers, and when really we shouldn't be looking at the numbers because we sort of pledge to ourselves when you start a new station, you got to let yourself go for a little while before you start looking at ratings. But they are proportionate to our cable competitors. In other words, we're in 40 million homes. CNN, for instance, is in 100. If you divided the number of viewers we got, by 40 and multiplied it by 100, we'd be very competitive with CNN and MSNBC at the moment, in the same range, in fact. Fox obviously is a juggernaut, and we're not there.
Well, but both of those guys have been on forever and a day, and your numbers are, when you came on, people were saying, "Oh, wow, the numbers are not great," but we are talking to the biggest ratings getter on the entire network. Your show, Real Money with Ali Velshi, is the top-rated show. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's like calling me the thinnest guy at the fat farm. But yes, it is.
Come on, wait a minute, Allie. Look, you were a great get for them from CNN. I mean, we used to watch you every Saturday. We'd have you on. It seemed like for hours talking about financial news. I swear to God, it was either you or the Jerry Lewis telethon. You were sort of on the whole time. But you were a great get for them. And people are gravitating toward you. I don't know if we know the rest of the folks on the network itself. Who are some of the people joining?
Yeah, look, well, you'll know Soledad O'Brien from CNN. You know, some of you will remember Joey Chen, who was on CNN some years ago. John Siegenthaler is a name that people will recall. David Schuster's been on Fox and MSNBC and Current. But, you know, I describe this a lot, Rob, like the old CNN, and you and I are both old enough to know the old CNN, where you didn't
Well,
really
Andy is. I don't know about me. Andy, you were probably there at the launch of CNN, weren't you, Andy?
I was. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you didn't know a lot of those reporters. You didn't even know some of those anchors. They made their names through news coverage and big events. Al Jazeera takes the view that the news is the star, and on American cable, that's not as clear generally. In fact, in many cases, it's very clear that the anchor or the presenter is the star. So it's a different way of looking at news. That's why you're not seeing the big names. Business news is a little bit different because whether or not you like a station, you will watch the business news anchor you like, whether it's Maria Bartiromo or Lou Dobbs or Neil Cavuto. So business news can be a little different.
Allie, Andy Epstein here.
Right.
I've done a few startups, and I'm curious from your point of view. You've been on the air a week plus. What is the mood like pre and now post?
Well, it's frantic. If you've been involved in startups, you know that we're not as exposed to the media coverage outside and what people are saying about us because we're figuring out the mechanics of the place. So for about 3 weeks before the launch was August 20th. So basically from the beginning of August, we were doing our shows as live. In other words, we were doing every show, booking it, producing it, and writing it as if it were on the air.
That's a terrific, by the way, that's a really wonderful ability to be able to do because most shows don't have a lot of time. The syndicated talkers do that, don't they, Allie? They have a couple of weeks to kind of work it out. But
and that's what we were involved in.
Yeah.
So in fact, inside the operation, most people haven't sort of had time to listen. Once in a while, somebody will publish something about us, and everybody will send the link around, and everybody will read it. You know, I've been watching a little bit more of the critical review, which has been pretty good, but it's a little bit biased because journalists all get very excited when there's a new journalistic venture. We don't necessarily see each other as competitors. We see it as a rising tide lifting all boats. So everybody's pretty positive. They're pretty pumped.
Unless it's the newsroom.
Really tired.
well, let's talk a little bit about the I'm sure some of the adversity that you're facing. You're having problems with AT&T Uverse, which has decided not to carry Al Jazeera America. What's look? Give us the downside. What are you guys hearing? Who's not buying into Al Jazeera America at this point?
Well, at the moment, the two cable companies that we need to deal with are the two companies. One is AT&T Uverse, and the other one is Time Warner. And it's important for people to understand because I've seen critical reviews of Al Jazeera suggesting that there's something either political or critical about it. It's not. These are both contracts. They're both entirely related to money. You know that in the cable universe, there are two kinds of operations. There are cable companies that pay for carriage, and there are those that are paid for carriage. ESPN would be the perfect example of the fact that everybody pays them to carry them.
And a lot. It pays them the most, I think, of anybody.
So we are a business concern. We are not paying for carriage. Everybody thinks Al Jazeera is really rich and we get paid to be on a cable system. And there's always a negotiation as to how much we will get paid. And that's where these negotiations are. So these are both financial discussions. In my opinion, they will both be resolved, and we will be carried by AT&T Uverse and by Time Warner in time. Those are the two big ones that are outstanding. Now, there are little ones. Cablevision is not on side yet, and a lot of the independents, but that will come as people call in and say, I want to watch this channel, and as we get critical review and win some awards. But, we're all old-timers in this business. This stuff all takes time.
We're talking to Ali Velshi, who is now with Al Jazeera America, the network that just launched last week, August 20th, and they're going through their first full week. There has been controversy with the network, Ali, because someone many people felt that Al Jazeera in general was critical of United States policy, that it was critical of the United States in general, and that they're buying their way in to be, the sour grape of the news business in the United States of America. How do you guys respond to that?
The folks that I work with, the folks that came over from Doha who launched Al Jazeera Arabic and launched Al Jazeera English and then came up to hire us all and launch Al Jazeera America, these guys are real journalists. Al Jazeera has won numerous awards from every organization that you can think of that gives awards to broadcasters, the DuPonts and the Kennedys and all these kinds of awards. These guys are real journalists. They don't really see any of this. They want to come in and bring a sort of journalism that they think most of our cable competition has walked away from. There are old perceptions about Al Jazeera, and the beauty of having a TV station is I can deal with all these perceptions by asking everybody to tune in if they can get it and watch us and tell us whether you think those perceptions exist. Most of the reviews of Al Jazeera since we launched a little over a week ago have been wildly positive, with the criticisms that it's to some people seems a little boring by American standards. It's a
because you do longer stories.
We do longer stories.
Right.
It's just not flashy. It's not all about the presenters and the anchors and the reporters.
Right.
And I think those are all criticisms we should take because we do want to attract the American audience. But those folks who still think that there's a bias in Al Jazeera America's news, I suspect in 10 years from now, when we're in a much stronger position than we are today, those very same critics will be there. But some of the harshest critics in the country, Eric Deggans from the St. Petersburg Times and Zurwick from the Baltimore Sun, I mean, these guys have said this is really great journalism.
Mm-hmm. Ali and Andy, we remember when CNN was still in its early days, and then we had the Middle East War, and everybody tuned into them, and even Nightline struggled for years until the Iranian hostage crisis came up. And Ali, I'm wondering, this whole Syrian incident, we know that there's going to be likely some retaliation going on for the alleged use of gases in Syria. Do you think this might be a bolstering news story for Al Jazeera America?
Well, I mean, on one level, I hope I hope it doesn't happen. I hope we don't end up having to report yet more intervention into another war. America's not very good at figuring this out, but the fact is, it does look like we're going towards some sort of military engagement in Syria because Syria is doing things that the world has deemed unacceptable.
Right.
And yes, I do think that we'll separate fact from fiction better than our cable competitors in the U.S. will. And that's not a criticism of them. I think our real competition, in fact, our only competition on the cable side in that story, will be my old employer, CNN. CNN's very, very good at this. But when it comes to a very complicated and nuanced Middle East, Al Jazeera is better. Yeah,
and you do have connections there. Do you think you actually have an edge because of your Middle Eastern connections that CNN may not?
Probably. Again, CNN, I think, does a better job than most at nurturing those connections. CNN's staff in the Middle East, guys like Ben Wiedemann have been there for 30 or 35 years, something like that. They are among the best. They speak the language.
Right.
But I think probably we've got a bit of an edge over everyone by being from the Middle East. I will tell you, I mean, as you know, Rob, the Middle East is so nuanced that the fact that you're from there or have a connection to it or speak Arabic or your business card has Arabic on it doesn't necessarily put you on the right side of the equation. In all of these countries, whether it's Syria or Libya or Egypt, things are so complicated that being from Al Jazeera may hurt you more than being from CNN in that case. But generally speaking, I think we get the landscape better than most.
Interesting. Ali, one last question. It is a new network. It may have a fresh eye on the news for the American audience. Why should people come to Al Jazeera America and watch the network?
Well, of the news watching audience, about half of them are all convinced that between Fox, MSNBC, and CNN, everything's being handled just fine. And I don't think any of those people actually need to come over to Al Jazeera. It's the other half of the audience that thinks that there's too much of a focus on extremism and partisan politics and entertainment. I was pretty disappointed a couple nights ago at 5 o'clock. in the evening Eastern time to see that CNN was leading with a history of twerking. And I know, Rob, you know more about entertainment than most people on earth, but because of guys like you, there is a real legacy in America of great entertainment outlets. And a lot of viewers think I can tune to ESPN to get sports, and I can tune to Entertainment Tonight or to TMZ or to People to get entertainment. I'm not sure on a day when we're talking about America attacking Syria whether the history of twerking is something that we should be spending 5 minutes on at the top of the news at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
That's the audience we're going for.
Yeah.
Won't see the history of twerking on Al Jazeera. I actually couldn't tell you what twerking is.
Well, you know what? If you'll just tune in a little while,
Rob's going to demonstrate, and it'll be on video.
I don't know
on our YouTube channel.
I don't know if I'm going to be the one to demonstrate, Andy, but it is.
Because he whistles while he
yeah,
twerks.
It is. Allie, thank you so much for joining us. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you about. Certainly the business in general. I'd love to have you on again as we get into the sort of financial times of the entertainment industry as we get into the fourth quarter and we start looking at some of the Christmas movies and that sort of stuff. If you wouldn't mind.
I'm always willing, and you told me when you first interviewed me when I first moved over that you'd have me on when we first started, and you did, and you've just been such a great supporter, and I am prepared to stay up beyond 10 p.m. Eastern time.
That's a big deal. I mean, that's a really
It's a huge deal.
So where are you going out to dinner tonight in New York?
No, I got my footy pajamas on. I got chocolate here. I'm ready to go.
Allie, thank you so much. We're just concluding a conversation with Ali Velshi from Al Jazeera America. His show is called Real Money with Ali Velshi, and as always, a great chance to get caught up on a brand new network. It is controversial in some respects. You may think it's controversial, but I urge you, don't just get locked into your same old news source every day. Sample. There's some great news networks out there. Get yourself a different view on the world. Say, you and I have watched a lot of different stuff. In fact, we're not so big on local news anymore, are we?
You didn't like that pursuit today?
Not too much.
No. All right, Ali, thanks so much. Ali Velshi from Al Jazeera America. Okay, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we may be talking about The Amazing Race, season 279. Well, they just announced their new squad, so this is a chance for us to talk with the producer of the show and get a little inside.
She knows all.
She definitely knows.
Maybe she can get me a spot on
Maybe
it.
she can get you a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Hollywood Headliners. I'm Rob Weller. We'll be right back.